Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 18 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 comes to an end. That's right, 256 bets down, 16 bets to go. It has been a long journey. It has been a painful journey, but we have come to the end of it. We have 1 week left of betting on every single NFL game. So let's thankfully wrap this thing up, because this is my 5th year doing this. Listen, you guys who've been listening to this podcast have heard me talk about this. I don't need to dwell on it, but this is my 5th year doing it. This is going to be my 2nd losing season, and it has been by far my worst losing season. But either win or you learn. I learned a lot this season. I will talk about some of those lessons I learned next week. And at the end of the day, as I say at the start of the season, every time that I've done this, I'm not a pro bettor, and pro bettors would not be betting on all 272 NFL games. And if they did, they certainly wouldn't be placing every single bet at the same time on Monday night. It is a losing strategy. I've done my best, but it is all about the fun that we have along the way. Unfortunately, it is a lot more fun to bet on all 272 games when you finish the season profitable. When you're down 17 units like I am now, not quite as enjoyable. It'd be even a little bit more fun if I was down a few units like the other season that I finished with a losing record, but this season has not been as fun, but then it's going to make the profitable ones even more fun in the future. So 8-8 season, so it wasn't 8-8 week. It wasn't a terrible week in week 17, but 8-8 for a small loss, which does bring our season to date record to 121, 130, and 5 for minus 17.91 units. Biggest heartbreak of the week was losing the under in the Bengals and the Broncos, 10-10 going into the fourth quarter. I didn't even think that losing the under was in play until the Broncos were on their final drive to try to tie it up. It was like 4th down. If that pass is incomplete, we win the bet. Pass is complete in the end zone, touchdown. And then going into overtime, we could have won the under if it finished in a tie. It did not. So losing the under 50 in a game that's 10-10 going into the fourth quarter is one of the more heartbreaking losses of the season. But if I'm being fair, on Sunday Night Football, I was on Commanders -4, and they covered despite that game going into overtime. So gambler giveth, gambler taketh away. Unfortunately, we do remember the bad beats a lot more than we remember the good beats. When you lose a bet like that, it sticks with you a lot longer. Then when you win a bet like that, it's almost like as if, hey, yeah, good, yeah, I kind of deserve that, and then you move on. But it is important to remember and be transparent with yourself that for every bad beat you probably had a good beat to go along with it. Now, this season, I do think it's fair to say the bad beats of kind of, maybe not even bad beats, heartbreaking losses have outweighed the lucky wins. But it is what it is. That's going to happen when you bet on sports, as we all do. Speaking of Sunday Night Football, the Falcons and the Commanders, with the playoff spot on the line, the NFC South for the most part on the line for the Falcons. All they had to do was beat the Commanders. Now they were underdogs. It would have been an upset, but the way that they do it matches up with the way that all of my sports teams lose. There is different kinds of teams you can cheer for as a fan. And there is a debate that I'm willing to have between what's worse. Being the fan of a sports franchise that is always bad and never gives you hope. Browns would be an example in the NFL. And hockey, I mean, if you're a fan of the Coyotes, who are now, I guess, now the Utah Hockey Club. The Ducks have won a championship. The Sharks have kind of been in it, but trying to think of a team in the NHL. The Columbus Blue Jackets. Is it better to be a fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Cleveland Browns, where you never really have hope, you just suck every single year? Or is it worse to be fans of teams that I cheer for, where you're good, you're right in the mix in the regular season, but at some point, whether it's right at the end of the regular season or for the Maple Leafs, it's in the playoffs, or if it's for the Falcons a handful of years ago when it's in the Super Bowl, you lose, and not only do you lose in the most heartbreaking fashion possible. I think, now I haven't been on the other side of this, but I do think, and I'm biased, that it's worse to cheer for the team that breaks your heart in the most heartbreaking way possible every single year. Because at least when you cheer for a bad team, the expectations aren't high. And yeah, I get you never feel joy, but you never really feel the, gut-wrenching, want to throw up, rip your heart out of your chest kind of feeling that I feel multiple times a year. And I've been on this podcast. I've been on other shows now. I've been in this industry for 7-8 years. I've been doing this podcast for 5 years. And if you've consumed my content for the past 5 years, even 7 years, I mean, this is a broken record. Not only do my teams get in these moments where they give me hope, but they then go on to lose in heartbreaking fashion. I mean, if you follow hockey at all, it's the Maple Leafs every single year. Almost quite literally every single year, they lose in overtime in Game 7 of the first round. I mean, I could list it off. I mean, the very first time that I remember that was hurt in kind of the modern era was 2012, was it? Overtime, Game 7, they blew a 4-1 Game 7 lead in the third period, lost in overtime to Boston. And then in the Austin Matthews era, they lost in COVID year in Game 5, which was Game 7 because it was COVID playoffs, to the Blue Jackets, which I talked about earlier as a crap franchise. Well, they beat the Maple Leafs in Game 5, which I think was in overtime. Montreal Canadiens up 3-1 in the series. The Leafs were lost 3 straight. Boston Bruins now. I've lost track of the amount of times the Maple Leafs have been eliminated to the Bruins in Game 7 in overtime in the past decade. Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 2? I know that's who we lost to last year in overtime in Game 7. Falcons, you got the 28-3 game, obviously. A lot of other heartbreaking losses that people don't remember. When the 49ers went to the Super Bowl to play the Ravens, they beat the Falcons in the NFC Championship. The Falcons were up big at halftime. I don't remember the exact score. The Falcons were up big at halftime against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game that year. Heartbreaking loss to the Eagles. Another game people don't remember with the Falcons. The ball hit Julio Jones in the hand for a game-winning touchdown in the last play of the game against the Eagles in the divisional round. It is year after year. Now it is the latest version of the Falcons, which, listen, I'm not going to pretend like the Falcons had a legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl this year, but I just wanted to see a playoff game. It was a back-and-forth game. 10-point lead at halftime. People forget. Michael Penix led us down the field late in the game. Game-tying touchdown to Kyle Pitts. Electric. Get the ball back. Chance to score a touchdown. Or chance to take the lead late. And Raheem Morris is 2 timeouts. Like, I don't understand how you have 2 timeouts and you complete a deep ball to midfield, 2 timeouts with 30 seconds left. And you're like, I'm going to save these timeouts. There's 30 seconds left. Like, you can only use so many timeouts. Doesn't use it. Waste, I think it's 18 seconds off the clock. I think he could have called a timeout at 30 seconds. By the time they took the snap, it was 12 seconds left in the game. Didn't use, you still had a timeout at the end of the game. Tried to kick a 56-yard field goal. And the kicker they signed since Younghoe Koo's been hurt, apparently his limit is 50 yards. Which, how is there a kicker in the NFL in 2024 whose limit to his range is 50 yards? I knew kickers in high school who could hit 50-yard field goals. How is this guy in the NFL? 56-yard game-winning field goal, and I didn't know that his range was that short. Came up 10 yards short. And then, of course, the Falcons in overtime lose the coin toss. Don't get the ball back. Kind of reminds me, 28-3 game. Lost the coin toss, don't get the ball back. I know I talk about luck a lot. The Patriots used to have luck. Now it's the Chiefs. I can't think of a time. I feel like the Patriots won every overtime coin toss, and I feel like the Chiefs have won every overtime coin toss. Now, I say that. I think the 49ers won the coin toss against them in the Super Bowl this past year, so maybe that's wrong. I feel like the Falcons have never won an overtime coin toss. Can someone find the history of overtime specifically overtime coin tosses in the NFL? I think the Falcons have never won a coin toss in overtime. So, of course, you lose that coin toss, then lose by touchdown. Now, did I win my bet on Commanders -4? Yes. Did I hedge the apps? I pulled off the biggest emo hedge of all time. I hammered the Commanders money line. Did that hit? Yes. Would I have willingly lost both those bets to win the NFC South and host a playoff game? 10 times out of 10. But this is my life. It is the next chapter in Ian's heartbreaking life as a sports fan. I just turned 32 years old a couple of days ago on the 27th. In my lifetime, since the day I was born, there has been one team of mine that has won a championship. It's right behind me. I bought memorabilia from that. And I don't know how you can, I think there's a bit of a glare. You probably can't see it. But the date on it is OK Blue Jays. It's the Sunday Star newspaper from Toronto when the Blue Jays won the World Series. In 1993, I was 10 months old. Since I was 10 months old, and Jolt and Joe, as they say, 2 in a row on Jolt and Joe's big home run. Woo, what a memory I have that at 10 months old. Since Jolt and Joe, touch 'em all, Joe. Since then, I have not seen a championship for any team I cheer for. And the Falcons, the 2024 Falcons, check. Next team on that list. Check. That's the next team. So I now march on this painful life of a sports fan that I live. All right, Falcons, you're not going to do it. Next up, we got the Maple Leafs. It's hockey season. The Maple Leafs, who Austin Matthews is injured, went to Germany to see a specialist, plays for a couple games, is out, comes back, goes out. Maple Leafs finally have a goaltender. He's injured. Finally have a defense. Now they can't score. But they'll be in the playoffs. Let's see right now where my Toronto Maple Leafs, who are the next team that can win me a championship. Let's see where they stand. Oh, would you look at that? I should have said it. Now, I haven't looked at the standings for a while because it has been football season for me. I haven't looked at the standings. I was going to say before I brought it up, I bet you they're right now, if the season ended today, they play the Bruins in the first round. Guess what? First place in the Atlantic, Panthers. Second place, Maple Leafs. Third place, Bruins. That means, to the surprise of no one, if the season ended today, another series against the Boston Bruins. And I can guarantee you what's going to happen. Game 7, overtime, loss. Now, we'll get to Game 7 in maybe a unique way. Sometimes we're up by a couple games. Sometimes we're down by a couple games. It doesn't matter. We will force a Game 7, and we'll be in Game 7. It'll be a close game. We'll have our chances. It'll go to overtime. I'm just like, oh, this is the year. This is the year the Maple Leafs get past the Bruins. Goal! Brad Marchand breaks the hearts of the Maple Leafs once again. Toronto, eliminated in the first round again. Oh, the humanity. And then I'll cross Maple Leafs off. And then I'll go, okay, Blue Jays, you're up. At least with the Blue Jays, I got no hope. Last year I was supposed to get Ohtani. Use this as a decoy. This year, the Toronto media continued to try to convince us that the Blue Jays were actually in the mix to get Juan Soto. Who do you think we are? You think you're going to convince us that? You're going to gaslight us that we're actually in the mix for Juan Soto? Of course we weren't. Supposed to get some other pitchers to help the rotation. Nope. Corbin Burns, I think, was the latest one we were supposed to get. Nope. Blue Jays won't even sniff the playoffs. Probably trade Vlad. Probably trade Bo. The rest of our rotation leaves after this season. 4th in the AL East, if we're lucky. And then it'll go Blue Jays. Next up, we're back at the Falcons. And that'll be a year from now. And a year from now, give or take a week or two, Falcons in overtime. Maybe it's a game to win the NFC South. Maybe it's the first round of the playoffs. Maybe it's the NFC Championship. Overtime. Is this the time they do it? Michael Penix leading them down for a game-winning field goal, a game-winning touchdown to take them to the Super Bowl. Oh, it's an interception. Oh, it's being returned for a touchdown. Oh, the humanity. The Falcons lose in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. Oh. 2025 Falcons. And the cycle continues, as it has continued since November 1993. This is the final week of the 2024 edition of the Road to 272 Bets. 16 games remain. I got my bets locked in for all 16 of them. Let's get into it. It is the week 18 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The Road to 272 is almost over.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws.
All right, let's get things rolling. We do have 2 Saturday games to bet on this weekend, both in the AFC North, which makes a lot of sense considering there's not actually many games at all that mean much, and most of the games that do mean at least something kind of mean very little. Most of the playoff teams have been decided. Obviously, in the NFC South, the Falcons can technically still get in. The only team in the NFC that still has a chance. And then in the AFC, it is just 3 teams, and most likely the Broncos will get in. So it's mostly about seeding in Week 18, including the Ravens and the Browns, which is the first game on the schedule. The Ravens need to win, or they need the Steelers to lose to clinch the AFC North. If the Ravens lose and the Bengals and the Steelers win, the Steelers will win the AFC North. Thankfully, for the Baltimore Ravens, they are 17.5-point favorites against the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to lay those points. My biggest reason, and this is a big topic for Week 18, and it's something that you need to pay attention to, because you're going to hear the term tank a lot this week. You're going to hear, don't bet on this team, don't bet on that team, because there's no reason for them to win. They want to lose because they got a tank. I think the Giants showed last week against the Colts there's no such thing as tanking from a player standpoint. The players are always going to play to the best of their ability. They're playing for contracts, they're playing for a job, they're playing for pride, they're playing for ego. The coaches are always going to coach to the best of their ability. They're also playing for a job in a lot of cases, especially for bad teams. The way to tank, which some teams have done, which the Browns have done, is they will start players who have no business starting. That's where you need to key in on a team tanking. Plenty of teams will do it by saying that their starter is too hurt to play the rest of the year. Trevor Lawrence, I'm sure for the Jaguars, I'm sure Trevor Lawrence is going to come back late in the year. But why? Why would you do that? The Browns continue to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is not an NFL quarterback. If you look at adjusted EPA per play amongst all quarterbacks this season, he's not only dead last, he's dead last by like an unimaginable number. He might be the worst NFL quarterback we've seen. Of a lot of bad quarterbacks we've seen, especially this season, DTR might be the worst of the worst. And the Ravens do still have something to play for. Now, if the Ravens game was second and the Steelers game was first, I would not be as quick to lay 17.5 points on the Ravens, because if the Steelers lost, the Ravens game would be meaningless. But the Ravens do not want to just hope the Steelers to lose to the Bengals. They have to win this game to clinch the AFC North. They will come out firing. If they score 3 touchdowns in this game, that honestly might be enough for them to cover the spread. That's how bad DTR is. The Browns couldn't move the ball last week against... Who was it the Browns just played last week? I know I was on the other side because it was DTR. Who was it? It was one of the bets I won last week. It was the Dolphins. They scored 3 points again. They scored 3 points against the Dolphins. The Dolphins scored 20 points. Obviously, they covered. I got a bad number because I bet it before I knew Tua was out. They covered 6.5 by double digits. They score 3 points again this week. The Ravens score 3 touchdowns. That's a cover. I don't know if you're betting on the Browns. I just guess you're going to hope that DTR can do a little bit more and the Ravens will rest their starters and maybe they get a backdoor cover. I'm not playing that game. I'll take the Ravens minus 17.5. I will say a lot of my handicaps for this week, this might actually end up being somewhat of a quick episode because a lot of my handicaps aren't going to be stats based because we got a lot of backups, a lot of teams with nothing to win. And you've also heard me cite all of these stats week after week. You don't need to hear me say the same things. So most of these handicaps are going to be based on where I think, and I will actually step aside for a second here. Of all the weeks to bet on the NFL, the way I do it, week 18 is the hardest. An actual handicapper, week 18 might be the best. Because if you're locked into the injury status of players, the status of whether or not a player is going to play, and you're quick to react, like very quick to react, you can get some very good numbers this week. Now, because of the way I do it, where I have to bet all my bets on Monday night, I don't have that ability. I just have to place all these bets and predict which teams are going to start players and which teams aren't. So I'm already putting myself in a tough spot. So basically, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to predict which players are going to play, which aren't, based on reports we already have, and based on kind of hints we've seen from reports so far. It's going to end up in me getting some good numbers. It's also going to end up in me getting some bad numbers, and I just got to hope that I can somehow squeeze out a profit in this last week. Bengals Steelers. I will take Bengals -1.5. This line earlier today on Monday was Steelers +3. The Steelers received money since then, and I agreed with that. I would have taken the Steelers at +3. By the time I went to go do my notes for the road to 272, the Bengals are down to -1.5. A line movement of 1.5 off the key number of 3. So since the movement, I am now back on Cincinnati. I do think, and I'm going to test this theory out next year, and I hope I remember it. I think the time to bet on the Steelers, and I probably could look this up, they're against the spread record under Mike Tomlin in the first 12 weeks and in the last 7 weeks. I have a working theory that the time to bet on the Steelers is in like the first 10, 11, 12 weeks. Then I think the Mike Tomlin voodoo seems to die off late in the season. I know a few years ago when they were like, was it 2020 or 2021? They were like 11-0, 12-0, lost like 5 of the last 6 games. There's been plenty of years where they've started off strong, stumbled down the stretch, one and done in the playoffs. The Mike Tomlin voodoo does not seem to work late in the season, does not seem to work in the playoffs. Is this a coaching thing? Is this a game plan thing? Is this just like he gets kind of lucky earlier in the year and that luck runs out? Is this kind of like the coaching variables, the lack of penalties, the good special teams play? Do those things play a bigger factor in the first half of the season compared to the second half of the season? I don't know what it is. But I do think moving forward, and I'm going to try it at least next year, I think you just have to kind of blindly back the Steelers for like the first 11 weeks and then get off them. Because they've been bad lately. They have not covered spreads lately, and they're getting blown out lately. Net yards per play over their last 3 games. The Steelers are 23rd in the NFL. Actually, no, sorry, dead last in their last 3 games. 23rd in the NFL overall this season in net yards per play. Dead last in the NFL over their last 3 games, -1.3. The Bengals defense, which if you're betting on the Steelers, you're doing it because you don't trust the Bengals defense, has actually improved lately. 17th in opponent EPA per play since week 11. That's better than the Steelers. That is 4 spots above the Steelers, who are 21st in opponent EPA per play since week 11. So this is obviously a meaningful game. The Bengals will be playing before the Chiefs and Broncos, before the Jets and Dolphins. So the Bengals have to win this game to give themselves any hope. And the Steelers might be meaningless. No, actually it's not. Even if the Ravens win earlier in the day, the Steelers have to win to clinch up the number 5 spot. Because if the Steelers lose and the Chargers win, the Chargers get the 5 spot, which is the easiest playoff matchup in the NFL. It'll be against the Texans, the worst playoff team. So the Steelers are definitely going to want that 5 seed. So this is a meaningful game for both teams. I'll take the Bengals. Moving on to Sunday's games. No real reports on what the Bills are going to do. This game is completely meaningless for the Bills. I assume, based on the line, the betting market right now expects the Bills to not play their starters for at least the full game. I will take the Patriots +2.5. This is not me thinking Josh Allen won't play at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the first half to try to put the stamp on his MVP resume. This is a bet against the Bills defense. A Bills defense that has not been good lately. 24th in opponent EPA per play, 27th in opponent success rate since week 11. And then if you bench some of those starters in the second half, if you rest your defensive starters with an already bad defense, that defense is going to get bad. Meanwhile, obviously, Gerard Mayo is coaching for his job. Drake May wants to get reps to improve as much as possible. He still has a lot to prove. I will take the Patriots and the points. I think this might actually be, if you want to really bet this, pending what the status reports of these players are heading into the game, you might want to wait until the Bills take a little bit of a lead and then live bet the Patriots. Because I think the Patriots have a second half storm here. I think the Bills rest their starters in the second half, and the Patriots have a little bit of a comeback in the second half. I'll take them plus 2.5. Titans, Texans. This line was Titans -4 earlier today, with the assumption the Texans were going to bench their starters. The report came out that the Texans are not going to rest their starters. They're locked into the number 4 seed. They can't move up or down. But D'Amico Ryans told reporters on Monday afternoon he does plan on playing his starters the full game, and I don't disagree with that. You're already as injured as you possibly can. Your team stinks. You have not looked good in several weeks. Resting this week is not going to fix the issues with your team. You're better off playing your starters and hoping you can figure something out and fix the issues. So I like that move by D'Amico Ryans. Since that was announced, the Titans went from -4 to -1. I will take the Texans on the money line, plus 100. Now I know what you're saying. Ian, you're fading the Titans. That's right. The Titans have clinched the worst spread record in NFL history are the 2024 Tennessee Titans. I think there's an episode, and you can go back and find it. I want to say it's week 10, week 11, where I said I've gone through the last 20 years of ATS records. And I think I said no one has had cover the spread fewer than 4 times. Almost every really bad spread team covers the spread a lot down the stretch, and we see a regression of the mean. And I think I said I will continue betting the Titans because we've seen year after year after year for decades, bad spread teams in the first half of the season, the worst, the ones who are at the bottom, regress to the mean at least a little bit. The Titans have not. I did consider betting the Titans just for the bit in the final week of the season. I'm not doing it. If the Texans do play their starters, as they have a lot of issues, as flawed as the Texans are, if they plan on playing their starters the entire game, I'm going to have to take them as underdogs against the Titans. I know it goes against the bit. I'm sorry. You know what would be very funny? If the Titans now cover the spread. But for the final week, I'm getting off the Titans. I can't do it. I can't do it again. If the Texans are playing the starters, I can't do it. Texans even money. Jaguars against the Colts. This is straightforward. I don't know. This spread is 5.5. I don't know how you could lay 5.5 points on the Colts. No matter who plays the quarterback, they're not good. They're imploding. I don't know if you followed the Pat McAfee drama. He's heard some things that are not good from inside the locker room. And now that they're officially eliminated from the playoffs, if you're a borderline imploding team, if you're on the verge of imploding and then you get eliminated from playoffs, that's full-on implosion. Now, I'm not going to say the Jaguars should be favored, but laying 5.5 points on the Colts in a meaningless game when it seems like there's a ton of locker room issues, that does not seem like a bet I want to place. This is a straightforward bet. I'll take the 5.5 with the Jaguars. So the Jaguars, that's almost like they imploded, their season was over, and now there's been enough weeks where it's like the players on the team are like, all right, like let's just play. And like it's almost past that point. They imploded so long ago that now they're just kind of a competent team because they're playing like stress-free because it doesn't matter. So I'll take Jaguars plus 5.5. Commanders against Cowboys. The Commanders do still have something to play for. They still do need to play for the 6th seed. If they win, they get the 6th seed. If they lose and the Packers win, they drop down to the 7th seed. In the NFC, obviously, you'd rather go play Tampa Bay or Los Angeles as opposed to playing Philadelphia. 6th seed has some value there. Commanders are going to play their starters. And listen, I've had some people in my DMs and my tweets getting after me for shitting on the Washington Commanders. I said they were going to regress, and they did for a few weeks. They have now bounced back from the regression. They've looked fantastic. Jaden Daniels is a real problem. A real problem. What was impressed me the most, now I called, if you read my, I don't know if I think I brought it up in my Commanders Falcons handicap, but also one of my best props for the player prop countdown this week was Jaden Daniels to go over his rushing yards total. I should have laddered it. The Falcons can't defend mobile quarterbacks. Mobile quarterbacks always run all over the Falcons. But Jaden Daniels is so good in so many different ways. He throws a fantastic deep ball. What impressed me the most against the Falcons was not his running ability. There was a few plays where it's just those quick hitters on the slants, just snap, one step drop, boom, hit. Now, he did get a little cocky with them, and then it ended up leading to him throwing it, because he threw like 5 in a row that were like easy completions. And then there was one that like he didn't even think, he just threw it, and the linebacker read it and picked him off. He's going to learn from that in the future. But he can scramble. He can improvise. He can throw deep. He can hit the quick hitters. He does it. He has patience in the pocket. He goes through his reads. Jane Daniels is a future MVP and a future Super Bowl winner. Cliff Kingsbury has not regressed. He regressed a little bit as an offensive coordinator. He has since figured it out. I'm in on the Commanders now. They're a very good team, a very scary team. I'm surprised they're only 4-point favorites to the Cowboys. The Cowboys are feisty, but they were feisty when they had CeeDee Lamb. You take out CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season. Is he actually injured? Are they doing it because they want to give the Cowboys a chance to lose? Debatable. But when you take out CeeDee Lamb, you have no more weapons. And when you have no more weapons, then teams aren't... The thing, even if you have CeeDee Lamb, other teams are going to focus on him, which then can open up your other players, which aren't weapons. If you don't have that player that either, one, you can throw to, or two, at the very least, distract the defense, you got no hope. And we saw that against the Eagles last week. I think this is one we don't overthink. I'll take the Commanders -4 against the Cowboys. Saints, Buccaneers. I wish the Falcons were mathematically eliminated, because all week I'm just going to be thinking, what if, about the Saints. Now we do have a little bit of hope. This line has moved down from Saints 14.5 down to Saints +13. I took a shot at Saints +13. The reason for the line movement is there were reports that Derek Carr might play this week, and Chris Olave, and Alvin Kamara. But mostly what's obviously the most important is Derek Carr. He went through practice, limited practice, game-like scenarios last week. They were thinking about letting him go. They ultimately ruled he was not ready to go. He has not been ruled out for the entire season. They said they're going to reevaluate him this week. And at the end of the day, what that means is there is a chance Derek Carr can go. If we take Saints +13 and Derek Carr can go, this is going to be a great ticket, because this spread's going to fall down to about Saints +8. We're probably going to get like 5-6 points of value. That's my only hope. And if he can't go, a 13 spread is going to be tough for any team to cover, although the Buccaneers might just do it. Now, if you're listening to this later on in the week, and it's been confirmed Derek Carr can't go, and the spread is still at 13, 14, probably up to 14.5, I would go the Buccaneers. This is me hoping, praying, and begging Derek Carr to play. If he does, we got a good number. Once again, I probably would not be betting on this game normally tonight. I'd probably wait until the Derek Carr news came out and tried to jump on the line before it moved. But I can't do that with the road to 272. So instead, I'm going to try to predict. And Derek Carr has been saying for weeks now that he wants to play again this season. His coach has given him a shot. They're going to reevaluate him. If he plays, we're going to have a good ticket. I'll take Saints +13. Let me take a drink here. Panthers against the Falcons. Falcons, 8-point favorites. No, I'll take the Panthers. Panthers +8. The Panthers offense has been feisty lately, and I don't trust the Falcons defense to stop them. I just talked last week about how mobile quarterbacks have burned us in the past. Bryce Young beat us last year. One of the Panthers' only wins last year was against the Falcons. Jaden Daniels just ran for like 128,000 yards against us this past week. Bryce Young's going to have a big game. Bryce Young's going to have a big game. He's been as confident in the pocket and as comfortable as he's ever been. Also, as much as I like Michael Penix, and this is not something I included in the rant in the intro, I do like what I've seen from Michael Penix. What I've liked is his patience in the pocket, which is the number one thing I look for in rookie quarterbacks, is their patience in the pocket, their footwork in the pocket. Very good. A+ rankings for those. Clutch throws late in the game, A+ ranking. What's very clear is that Penix has some issues, and he even said it after the game. He confirmed my suspicions. asking a rookie quarterback to step in week 16 is extremely tough. Because the chemistry between quarterbacks and receivers is only something you can get with reps. And when you're a backup quarterback, you don't practice with the ones, you practice with the twos. You practice with scout team. And it's very clear he doesn't have his chemistry down with the Falcons receivers. The interception he threw is an option route. He thought the receiver, was it Kadarius Hodge? He thought the receiver was going to run a corner. The guy settled down for a hook, threw to the corner, nobody there, interception. There's even other an out-breaking patterns. Right read, but chemistry is not just knowing how the receiver is going to run the route. It's also understanding their speed, if that makes any sense. Throwing the football at the NFL level is such a game of precision. You need to know exactly when the receiver is going to get to a certain spot, and if you're off by a millisecond, you're going to miss the guy. So I don't think he's inaccurate. He was missing receivers. I think it's a lack of chemistry. It's a lack of reps. I don't really want to lay 8 points on a team that's quarterbacked by a guy who has a lack of chemistry with his starting receivers. Is that going to be fixed by next season? I think so. And I'm actually excited for next season. I think it's going to be very fun to watch Michael Penix next season. I'm going to be all in on the Penix train. And then final week of this season, 8 points is a lot against a feisty Panthers team on a quarterback that I still don't have a lot of confidence in this year. Even if the Falcons beat the Commanders heading in the playoffs, to be like, ooh, you better be on the practice field every single day. That chemistry and accuracy only comes with repetition, and he's not going to get that till next year. So I'll take the Panthers +8. Bears against the Packers. The Bears stink. I don't know how I lost Seahawks -3.5. That was last Thursday Night Football, I had Seahawks -3.5, and I had DK Metcalf longest reception over 23.5 yards. The Seahawks won by 3, and DK Metcalf's longest catch was 23 yards. So I lost both bets by 1 yard and 1 point. I was 1 more yard and 1 more point away from going 2-0. Instead, I went 0-2. That's betting, baby. The Bears stink. I'll take the Packers -9. The Bears have been a complete disaster since they fired their head coaches. Nobody else knows what's going on. Who's their interim head coach? Thomas Brown. He has no idea what the fuck he's doing. Listen to the interviews that he's doing. He's just like, get me to the end of the season. Nobody in that locker room knows they need a complete reset this offseason. And they're taking on a Packers team that still has plenty to play for. The Packers team that still, if they win and the Commanders lose, the Packers will move up to the 6th seed. And I still think the Packers are one of the teams left in the NFL who can win the Super Bowl. We now have a team, by the way, who ranks dead last in the NFL in net yards per play in the Bears, going up against a Packers team that is 2nd or 3rd. This is a blowout in my opinion. I'll take Packers -9. Giants, Eagles. I'll take the Eagles -3. I don't know why this is this small of a spread. I know the Eagles are likely to rest starters. I know A.J. Brown has said himself I don't think he's going to play. They have nothing to play for. They're locked into the number 2 seed. But Nick Sirianni is going to want Saquon Barkley to get this record. Based on everything I've heard from interviews, Nick Sirianni wants Barkley to get this record. Barkley needs 101 yards. I think they play most starters in the first half to try to get him close to the record. If he's close, they'll play him at the start of the second half. If not, then they'll rest guys. But they're going to give this a shot to get the record. And don't let last week's performance by Drew Lock and the Giants convince you they're a half-decent team. That was an F- team playing an A+ game. Even the worst teams in every sport, in every league, at every level, even the worst teams can come out with an A+ performance and look competent and look good. That was the Giants last week. They're going to go back to the Giants that we've seen all season. They are, in my opinion, the worst team in the NFL from top to bottom. I'm going to fade them. I'm shocked this spread is this low. I'll go Eagles -3. In a game that, like I said, I think for the first half, we're still going to see the majority of the starters. Nick Sirianni's ego, and now I'm playing armchair psychologist. Nick Sirianni's ego is way too big to roll over and let the Giants win this game. Fact or fiction? I know I'm playing armchair psychologist. I know that's not a smart thing to do as a bettor. I try to stay away from that as much as possible. But if you don't think Nick Sirianni has a big enough ego that he's not good, if you think he's going to roll over and let the Giants win a meaningless game, not a fucking chance. Eagles -3. Chargers against the Raiders. I will take the Raiders plus 5.5. Should the Chargers be favored? Yes. Will the Chargers probably win this game? Yes. Do the Chargers have something to play for? Likely, yes. Now, there is a chance, and this is part of the reason why I'm taking the points with the Raiders, if the Steelers beat the Bengals on Saturday, now I am betting on the Bengals, but I'm not going to say there's not a chance the Steelers win. If the Steelers beat the Bengals on Saturday, the Chargers are playing for nothing, I believe. Because even if the Broncos win, now let me double check that. Because the Chargers won this past week, so the Chargers have 10 wins. They'd be tied with the Broncos. Who is the tiebreaker between the Chargers and Broncos? Have played against each other twice this season. Chargers won both, so they have the tiebreaker. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So there you go. So if the Steelers win, this game is meaningless. The Chargers will be locked into the number 6 seed, which means the Chargers may rest some players. Now, with me betting this game on Monday, this line is set as if the Chargers have something to play for in this game. I can't lay the points with the Chargers. The Steelers win, and then Sunday morning the Chargers are an underdog, and I'm sitting with a -5.5 number. I have no choice but to take the Raiders. I will say the Raiders are one team that have no interest in tanking. Their coach doesn't want to tank. He's coaching for a job. Their players don't want to tank. And their owner, who's the most important when it comes to tanking, does not want to tank. When they've won the past couple of games, Mark Davis has come down the locker room and popped champagne. He just wants to win, baby. And their numbers back that up. Their defense actually 8th in the NFL in opponent EPA since week 11. They're not going to go down without a fight. There's a chance this game is meaningless by the time this game kicks off. I will take the points with the Raiders plus 5.5. Seahawks Rams. I will lay the 3 points with the Seahawks. Could have been a much better number if I bet it yesterday, but alas, here we are. The Rams have not announced whether or not they're going to play their starters because they obviously clinched the NFC West on Sunday night when the Falcons lost. I think there's still a chance the Bucs can get the 3 seed and the Rams would fall to the 4. Yes, I do think that's the case. Still, Sean McVay has been a big rest guy in years past. He has rested the large majority of his starters. He's rested his quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if he rests his players again. And even if he doesn't, I still like the Seahawks -3 line. I think the Seahawks are a better football team than the Rams. I really do. I don't like the Rams. I think they're the second worst NFL playoff team next to the Texans. I think they've been lucky where when their offense stumbles, their defense has stepped up and vice versa. As a whole, the Rams aren't that good in my opinion. 21st in net yards per play this season, 17th in net yards per play over the last 3 games. Their defense is 25th in opponent EPA per play since week 11. Matt Stafford's looking old. No one said it yet. No one has said that Matt Stafford is kind of washed, but he kind of is. Cooper Kupp, kind of washed. It'll be next season, the reports, like, people will start, the narrative will, mark my words, clip this. Next season, the talking heads will start talking about how Matt Stafford is washed and Cooper Kupp is washed. They may even start saying that when they lose in the playoffs, because they will lose in the playoffs. I'm telling you right now, Matt Stafford is not close to the running back or to the quarterback he used to be. Cooper Kupp is not close to the receiver he used to be. The Seahawks are a better team. Seahawks defense, 3rd in opponent EPA per play since week 11. They've let some wins get away from them. I think they're the better team. I'll lay the 3 points with Seattle, especially in the case where LA might be resting their starters. Dolphins, Jets. The Dolphins were, I think, 2.5-point favorites, 3.5-point favorites. Not promising report coming out that leads me to believe Tua will not be starting in week 18, and as a result of that, the line has moved down a couple points. I will take advantage of that before it becomes official, because I think once it becomes official, I think the Jets become favored, because Tyler Huntley's not good. I'm not going to buy into the fact they beat the Browns. And what was a very close game until late. Let's not forget. Now, the Jets are a disaster, but they at least will be healthy, and they will be starting their starting players. That's enough for me to take a point with the Jets. Might be the shortest handicap of the season. Jets +1 to the Dolphins. 49ers, and I think the 49ers proved on Monday night. They did not beat the Lions. They did not cover the spread. But the 49ers did prove. Now, this is worrisome. So I'm going to be honest. And I was going to say this earlier, I didn't. I bet the games involving the teams on Monday night before the end of the game because it's week 18 and I don't want to stay up till 2:30 and I got a big day tomorrow, New Year's Eve. I took the 49ers -1 and even money before Monday Night Football. They're now +3 to the Cardinals. So I've already lost 4 points of value. Did a report come out of the 49ers not starting someone in week 18? Are they not starting Brock Purdy? I don't really want to look this up live here. Brock Purdy, you see? Or is this just a reaction to them losing? Oh, Brock Purdy leaves game with concerning arm injury. See, I started recording this when the game was still going on. That must have happened right after I started recording. Brock Purdy leaves game with concerning arm injury. Damn. Yeah. So that line is reacting to Brock Purdy not playing week 18. Well, that's probably a loss. If you're looking to bet it now, I'd actually like 49ers +3 even with, because their backup quarterback is, I want to say Josh Dobbs. Is it Josh Dobbs? I almost said Josh Johnson, but I don't think he's in the NFL anymore. It is Josh Dobbs. I got the Josh part right. I like Dobbs +3 with the 49ers, to be honest. So even at the +3, I will take the 49ers. Number one, very skilled, still top 3 in the NFL in net yards per play, and I'm fading the Cardinals. I correctly called Kyler Murray sucking in December, and I can't bet the right side. When I bet the under, they score enough points, the over hits. If I fade the other team, like the other team sucks off it. Like the Rams kept the Cardinals to 6 points and didn't cover the spread this past week. So like I'm correct in my prediction. I just can't figure out the right way to bet it. So maybe now that Brock Purdy's out, maybe you should actually just bet the under in this game instead. Regardless, I took 49ers -1 at even money. That's what I get for placing these bets before the game happened. Of course, one of the only times I do that this season, it bites me in the ass. I think it's just the second time all season I did that. I'm on the Niners -1 even money. Chiefs Broncos. I know the Chiefs aren't playing anyone. 10-point spread is insane. This is a must-win game for the Broncos. This is a win and you're in. This is a meaningless game for the Chiefs. I don't care. 10 points? Oh my God. That's a lot. I believe in Carson Wentz enough to be able to cover a 10-point spread. The Chiefs still have the offensive scheme they've been using. They still have the same coaches. They'll still be playing some starters. And the Broncos aren't exactly a team designed to really blow teams out of the water. I know they blew the Falcons out of the water, but still. Lean on their defense. They've been running the ball a ton. Listen, the Chiefs aren't only Patrick Mahomes. If Patrick Mahomes was on any other team, he would not have 3 Super Bowls right now. It is a coaching staff. It is a scheme. It is a system. Not to say the Chiefs should be favored, but I'm going to take 10 points for the Chiefs. That spread's gotten a little crazy. Even with backups, I take 10 points. Teams don't just generally roll over. They're still going to try, even with their backups. They're going to do their best. 10-point spread's kind of insane. I'll take Chiefs +10. And then finally, Vikings-Lions. 272 bets. This is the final one. It is 272 of 272. I have not hit an upset winner in a long time. Let me actually look this up. So Sports Illustrated, all the Sports Illustrated NFL writers, we do a upset picks roundtable every week where each of us, Albert Breer, Mitch Goldich, Gilberto Monzano, Connor Orr, John Plume, Matt Verderam, Peter Dewey, who's the betting guy along with me, and then me. Each of us have done a roundtable upset pick every single week this season. I have the record in front of me. I haven't hit an upset winner since week 5. I picked the Cowboys at plus 120. Who'd the Cowboys beat in week 5 as an upset? 1, 2, 3, 4. They beat the Steelers 20-17 in week 5. That's the last time I've hit an upset winner. Since then, I've gone week 6 Broncos lost, week 7 Raiders lost. I mean, you don't need me to read all those. But some of these aren't even that big. Cowboys plus 120 again later on. Falcons plus 120. I think that was against the Broncos. 49ers plus 105. Dolphins plus 130. This past week it was I took the Packers to upset the Vikings. Nothing. My best season for the road to 272 when I finished up over 20 units. My bread and butter was hitting upset winners. I can't hit an upset winner to save my life. So I'll take one more shot. Give me the Minnesota Vikings plus 130 to beat the Detroit Lions. I did nail my pick on the Lions game this week, and what I said was true did come to fruition. I flirted with the idea of taking the 49ers, but I said the Lions might just score 40 points. The Lions scored 40 points. So you should have just bet the over. So maybe you should bet the over in the Vikings Lions, because the Lions, if they continue to win, and they may certainly continue to win, it's going to be a shootout every game because their defense is done. Their defense stinks. It's injured. A team can only take so many more injuries before they hit the tipping point. They've hit that tipping point. I just don't think hoping for an offensive shootout and coming out on the right side of it is going to work against a Vikings defense that's very good. Brian Flores, who's a very smart defensive coordinator. A Vikings offense that can attack a defense so many different ways. The Lions, unfortunately, are in a tough spot. Their defense is so depleted. I don't have faith in them to win the Super Bowl anymore. There was a time I said they're the best team in the NFL. They're not. Their defense is too hurt. You can't survive. Their only hope throughout the playoffs, including this week, and actually this week, if they can beat the Vikings and then get home field and a first round bye, they got a shot. This is actually kind of their Super Bowl. You just can't win 4 games in a row, with probably 3 of them being on the road if they lose this game, in offensive shootouts. Because every playoff team you're going to face is going to be able to put up points, so it's like your offense can't make mistakes. Or even your offense does make 0 mistakes and it's still not enough, like as we've seen with the Bengals a ton this season. So I don't think they can drag the Vikings into a shootout. I think the Vikings defense only needs to be able to stop the Lions 3 to 4 times, and that could be enough. The Lions defense is done, unfortunately. So I will take Minnesota as an underdog on Sunday Night Football, the final game of the 2024 NFL regular season. Let's go ahead and recap my picks here. Ravens minus 17.5 against the Browns. Bengals minus 1.5 against the Steelers. Patriots plus 2.5, minus 102 against the Bills. Texans even money on the money line against the Titans. Jaguars plus 5.5 against the Colts. Commanders minus 4 against the Cowboys. Saints plus 13, minus 108 against the Buccaneers. Panthers plus 8, minus 105 against the Falcons. Packers minus 9 against the Bears. Eagles minus 3, minus 102 against the Giants. Raiders plus 5.5, minus 102 against the Chargers. Seahawks minus 3, minus 106 against the Rams. Jets plus 1, minus 105 against the Dolphins. 49ers minus 1, even money against the Cardinals in what will be my worst bet of the week. Chiefs plus 10 against the Broncos. Vikings plus 130 on the money line against the Lions. I have not wrote down my best bets for the week or even taken a look to see how my 5 best bets did last week, so let's just do that live. As you can tell, I'm kind of mailing in here in week 18 in what's been a disaster of a season. Last week, my best bets went 4-1. Look at that. My best bets have done significantly better this season than all my picks put together. I hit Ravens Texans under. That was a winner. Texans scored 2 points. Seahawks minus 3.5. Missed that by the hook, but then I hit Chargers, I hit Dolphins, I hit Commanders. All 3 of those covered. That's a 4-1 week. We're a point by the Seahawks away from going with a 5-0 sweep. And we also hit the teaser. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Dolphins pick 'em against Browns. Hit. Bucks minus 2 against Panthers. Hit. 5 best bets this week. Let's go with... I'm going to go against the Titans. Texans, even money. So Texans +1 against the Titans. Commanders -4 against the Cowboys. Jaguars +5.5 against the Colts. Packers -9 against the Bears. And the Vikings +2.5. Give me the points for the best bet portion. +2.5 against the Dolphins. Really quick, if I can find a teaser of the week, it's got to be Vikings. +2.5 is an easy layup leg for the... Why is that taken off the board? Lions Vikings taken off the board at DraftKings for some reason. That's concerning. It was on there like 2 seconds ago. Assuming the Vikings are still +2.5, I will tease that up. And I will tease one of these big spreads down, maybe. 6 points. The Packers only take it to 3.5. Can't really do that. The Texans are +1. Easy. Texans from +1 up to +7 against the Titans. That should be an easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then I don't know why this is closed at DraftKings. Did something happen? Let me check FanDuel's line here. They still got Vikings. So I'll go Vikings +2.5 up to +8.5, and Texans +1 up to +7 for my teaser of the week. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Gamble or bless, I will be back next week. I'm going to recap the road to 272. I'm going to recap my 32 futures for 32 teams, which I gave out at the start of the year in my NFL preview episode. And I'm also going to give 1 best bet and 1 player prop for every single wildcard game. So I will be back next week. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Continue to watch and listen. Please subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. I'll talk to you later. Gambler, bless the road to 272. I don't know what to say. It's not marches on, but the road to 272 wraps up this week. Yeah. Got to go back to the drawing board on that one. Bye.